Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I of course am the FPL train, and in this video we're going to be doing a wildcard team. Now I'm not going to be activating the wildcard chip because I am completely fine currently right now with my team, but while the international break is going on, so we've got a bit of time to think. Obviously it's the 14th when game week 4 begins. I figured, you know what, I've seen quite a few people activate it, which I still think is mad, but if you've got off to a bad start, you got off to a bad start. You got to fix it quick, I guess. So they are activating the wildcard chip. So I figured, why not show you what I'd do if I was activating the wildcard chip. So first things first, let's put in both Salah and Haaland in this team. Now obviously during the summer debate was, do we go for one or do we go for both? I feel like at the start of the season both of these two have just had, that pretty much cements that you realistically you want to have both of them in your team. So first thing we're going to do is going to put Salah and Haaland in there. There's no real need to talk about too much. They both got off to a flying start to the season. Obviously, they both are massively expensive. 12.7 from Salah and 15, should I say. 15.1 now for Erling Haaland. But you got to think, yes, they're expensive, but so far, I mean, Haaland's got 2 hat-tricks literally in the last 2 games, so he's proven his worth. Salah's already scored, 3 goals and got 3 assists himself, so yeah, realistically, I mean, you've got to have both of them in your team now from the looks of it. So definitely put those 2 in your team first. Then what you want to do is look at the fixtures and see who has the best fixtures. And the teams that have the best fixtures, most notably, in my opinion, is both Aston Villa and Chelsea. So we've got WILDCARD at the defence here. Now, yes, this guy could get replaced by, is it Marston? I think that's how you say his name. Who's obviously joined from Chelsea for quite a bit of money, but he's had a good start to the season, WILDCARD. So he's played all 3 games. He started all 3. Yes, he's come off early against Arsenal and also against West Ham. But he's got an assist against Leicester already this season in the game just gone. He played all right against Arsenal and West Ham. So it looks like he could be holding that position at this moment in time. So at 4.5 million, I think it's worth going for. And if it doesn't work out, and let's say he does get replaced finally, you can always switch it up straight away and go for a Konza, who definitely will be starting. So that's why I've gone for WILDCARD. And Levi Colwill, I've mentioned before about bringing it in my transfer ideas video. Look, he's definitely going to be starting for Chelsea, that's sure. He's not going to get replaced. Yes, they haven't got a clean sheet yet, which has been disappointing, especially in the last 2 games against both Wolves and Crystal Palace. But going forward, the next 4 fixtures for Chelsea look really good. So at 4.5 million, I think it's worth getting him. And then you can also see the fact that I've gone for 2 midfielders as well. So I've not tripled up on both of these teams. I've just gone for 2 on each. First up, it obviously has to be Cole Palmer. I feel like you've got to have him in your team. Yes, he's also a premium player at 10.6 million, but he's got to be worth it. I mean, he's literally smashed it yet again so far this season. He's got 1 goal, honestly, 3 of them. He's got 1 goal, so, I mean, not exactly a lot in the first 3 games, is it? You really want him to score more, but he's got 4 assists, so that's 5 returns in 3 games. So I like to think it's worth it. He's currently flagged up right now with a knock, but I have no doubt he will be starting against Bournemouth. It's international break. Some players just can't be arsed with it. You know, I don't blame them. You know, Nations League, yeah, it's just not for me at all. So clearly it's not really for the players either. So he will be starting in the next game, but he's somebody I feel like you've got to have in your team. And then the Aston Villa midfielder I've gone for is Morgan Rogers at 5.1 million. You could go for the likes of somebody probably like a 9, or like some people are currently going for, because obviously scored that goal. But if it were me, it's got to be Morgan Rogers. You could go Leon Bailey, who's a bit more expensive now at 6.5 million. But Morgan Rogers, yes, he hasn't scored a goal. Yes, he hasn't created, well, got an assist or anything. But he's looked good in all 3 games. He started all 3 games, and he's also finished them all as well. So he's played 90 minutes in all of them, which is also an added bonus. And of course, the fixtures, particularly the next 3 for Aston Villa, look really, really nice. So you've got to have your Chelsea players in, and you've got to have your Aston Villa players in as well. So those are the 6 players. I feel like almost like you have to have those 6 in your team. Now, you could probably change the Rodgers one to a different Villa player, and you could probably change the Colwill one to a different Chelsea defender. But I feel like maybe, or Lee Dean could also change to maybe a Konza. But for me, Salah, Palmer and Erling Haaland are must-haves in your team. Now we're on to the goalkeepers as well. You can see they've popped up. So I've gone for Hermansen of Leicester City. Now, look, am I expecting him to be keeping any kind of clean sheet? So far, I mean, they've not looked great defensively at all, but they've not been battered just yet, Leicester. It has only been just by a goal so far. And he has looked pretty decent, to be fair. He's only had the one save bonus point, and that was against Spurs, which was quite surprising because the amount of shots Spurs had, you'd think he had loads. Just goes to show how bad their shooting was. But he has looked good in all 3 games, I reckon, Hermansen. He's only 4.5 million. And his next fixture is pretty decent against Everton. A little tricky in, obviously, game week 6 against Arsenal. I'm sorry, I got that completely wrong. Crystal Palace is the next game. Game week 5 is nice against Everton. And then 6 is a bit difficult against Arsenal. But then after that, they go on a 4-game little run there, which is really nice against Bournemouth, Southampton, Forest and Ipswich. So he's got good fixtures coming up. So definitely worth somebody having in your team. And alongside him is going to be Kepa of Bournemouth. So obviously he left Chelsea to go to Bournemouth on loan. He's obviously going to be out in the next game because they've got Chelsea, so he can't play that one. But then after that, tricky fixture against Liverpool. So you would go for Hermansen for Leicester. And then you've got some nice fixtures against Southampton and Leicester. And I'm not going to lie, 8, 9 and 10 are really difficult for Bournemouth. We've got Arsenal, Villa and Man City. That, to be fair, is pretty nasty in all fairness. But, like I mentioned, you've got Hermansen to play instead, who's going to have in the same fixtures, he would have had Southampton, Forest and Ipswich. So, I feel like they complement each other really well. And it's going to be really interesting to see how Kepa gets on this season. Both of these guys are 4.5 million starting goalkeepers. So, for me, I feel like now, I mean, quite a few people started off going with the 1 goalkeeper. I feel like you should probably go with 2 goalkeepers now if you're going to activate your wildcard chip. So then, on to the rest of my defenders then. And starting us off, we've got Konate of Liverpool. I feel like you've got to have a Liverpool defender in your team currently right now. I mean, obviously, because we've got quite a few premiums, money's a little bit tight with the rest of the team. So I couldn't go for a Trent Alexander-Arnold like I'd like to, or maybe a Virgil van Dijk, Andrew Robinson. But I could afford a Konate at 5 million. Liverpool yet to concede a single goal so far this season, and the next 3 fixtures looks like that could easily continue as well. So I feel like at this stage of the season, you need a Liverpool defender, and the cheapest one you can get is Konate, and he's definitely worth getting in there. Obviously, another guy on here, Anthony Robinson, has got off to a great season himself personally. He's already managed to come away with 2 assists so far in the first 3 games, which is phenomenal. A 4.6 million defender. His fixtures are not exactly too bad. I mean, they're not the easiest from where they were at the start of the season, but they're not too bad. And even then, if he continues to get assists, it's not, you know, too much of a struggle if he doesn't obviously get a clean sheet. But yeah, I feel like he's somebody you need to get in your team. And the final player on here is a £4 million defender in Jacob Greaves of Ipswich. Now, this one was a case of who do I go for. There was rumours, well, there's a lot of people at first the other week going about the Aston Villa defender. Now, I did say I'm not sure he's nailed on like other people seem to guarantee, a bit like Barker really. And it turns out he wasn't, so for me it's not worth going down those routes. Whereas Jacob Greaves of Ipswich, I mean, you could go for Johnson, but he didn't start all 3 games so far. But Jacob Greaves has started all 3 games. And you know what? Ipswich games now, from game week 4 right up to game week 10, they're actually really good. So there is a good chance that he could somehow come away with a couple clean sheets there. I mean, he might not be in your team most weeks. He might be sat on the bench. But it's just something to think about. He's a £4 million defender at the start, so it just makes sense to go for him. With my last 2 midfielders then, one of them is Saka and the other is Smith Rowe. Saka, of course, makes it 4 premium players, which is crazy. Was somebody I was thinking about not putting him in just because game weeks 4 and 5 are pretty tricky, and so are 9, 10 and 11. But when you look at 6, 7 and 8, my word, they're nice. And he's got off to a cracking start, an assist in every game, scored a goal as well. I feel like you've got to have Saka in your team. You might want to gamble maybe and go for a different player like an Odegaard, but he hasn't so far smashed it like I was going to say Kai Havertz then. Kai Havertz has also got off to a great start, but Saka has got off to a mental start as well. So I feel like you've got to get Saka in your team. And Smith Rowe, he's cheap. He's 5.6 million. We all remember him a few seasons ago at Arsenal when he just kept scoring non-stop. He's already scored once this season. Can he score again? We'll have to wait and see. But he's 5.6 million. He's an absolute bargain. His fixtures aren't too bad either. I mean, they're not the best, not going to lie. But, Smith Rowe could quite easily score against these guys. So for me, you've got to get Smith Rowe in your team. So that leads me on to the strikers then. And I've got Stewart of Southampton. Is he going to play for them? Probably not, if I'm being honest. He's literally in this team just because he was 4.5 million and he's not left. So he's in there. I'm not expecting him to play at all, and I wouldn't even put him on the pitch anyway. And the other one is Beto of Everton. Got off to a horrible start to the season. I know he scored in the Carabao Cup, but that's not the league. He's only played 34 minutes, so I wouldn't expect anything from either. And he also would be left on the bench alongside another defender, probably Greaves of Ipswich. But those would be the three bench players. But yeah, I mean, there is avenues to change this team. So what I could do is I could go for a cheaper option in midfield from Rodgers and go for maybe a Harry Winks, and then upgrade Beto to somebody like a João Pedro. Or I could obviously downgrade Beto and then upgrade Rodgers, which obviously if I do that, get rid of Beto, I'd go from a 5.2 million in the bank to having 5.7. And with that, I could get probably a better option. I'm just going to have a quick look now what my best option is for 5.7 million. So I could get an Onana of Aston Villa, which I don't really fancy. But the best one would probably have to be Semedo of Bournemouth at 5.6 million. Who's obviously got off to a great start, scoring 2 goals and got the 1 assist. So that is something to take into consideration as well. So yeah, that is the team that I would do if I was wildcarding, which I am not because I'm not that pants just yet. But yeah, let me know what you think of this wildcard team. Let me know what your wildcard team looks like, and let me know what you think I should have changed or who I should have put in this wildcard team. So yeah, that is it for this video then. Before you go, please don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next one.